How's it going, guys? Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Phil Talk Sports Podcast. Joining me is Nick Rice for the first time in a while. How's it going, man?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know how to talk on this show. You've had so many
Wow.
crazy guests. I'm sure you're a little disappointed, from big time future NFL athletes to coaches to all these great people. And then you got Nick Rice. Oh,
You got to remember where you came from. You can't leave people behind as the show grows and grows. And
well, I thought I was left behind, but I guess not. I guess not yet.
of course not. But I always know when to call you in, and this is the perfect time as we have college football about to start. Technically has started already with the infamous week 0. We have the NFL season about to start and everything. Let's start with college, and let's start with week 0. What is your opinion of it, and how many games need to be played before week 0 just becomes week 1?
I mean, I'm telling you, like, this is, to me, almost unnecessary, especially now because the NFL gave college football a bone. Now they're probably going to take it away by playing games on Christmas too. And that'll be a little unfortunate on New Year's as well, whenever that lands and takes away from viewership. But week 1 is a great opportunity to just debut all of college football instead of competing with week 3, the preseason. There's no week 4, so you have that golden opportunity to play everybody. But oh, well, I don't know what they know, but there were a couple of games like UCLA and Hawaii. That was something worth watching for 2 seconds.
Yeah, we had, so I just looked, there was 5 games total. UCLA, Hawaii, which is normally a little fun because it usually gets played in Hawaii. This year was in UCLA, and that was not a very close game. After a couple minutes, we had UTEP, New Mexico, really the only close game. So UTEP, New Mexico wasn't close. San Jose State, Southern Utah wasn't close, and Fresno State, UConn wasn't close. The only game that was actually the first game. It kind of kicked off the season with some Big Ten action, which was Nebraska and Illinois, which, while does not sound like a great game on paper, because Nebraska has not been good for a while and neither has Illinois, but it's been with the story that we've known for a couple of years of Scott Frost still trying to right the ship for the Huskers. And, game did not start off great for them. I think we all saw the kick return that resulted in a safety, blunder that they had early in the game. And they really had a chance to take the lead at one point, and then, it just snowballed. One mistake turned into 2. Next thing you know, it was like 30-6 for them, and they just didn't come back. Being a UCF fan and student, I have my own opinions of Scott Frost, so I don't want to go first. From someone completely outside of this bubble, what has been your opinion on Scott Frost's time at Nebraska?
See, this is why I love joining the show. We get to talk trash about some of my least favorite coaches like Jim Harbaugh, and then some of my favorite coaches who have shockingly not panned out. Lovie Smith for Illinois. Is he still there?
That's a great question. Let me look it up while you.
All right. Well, while you do, I guess this is a great opportunity to say that the skill set, not just from coaching the NFL to coaching college, is different, but coaching certain schools versus other schools is also different, which is just amazing to me. And you see a guy like a Scott Frost who works at a program like Central Florida, UCF. I don't know if I'm getting in trouble by saying Central Florida.
You will.
But Scott Frost is one of the most successful coaches for such a short period at the Knights. And, he took the bait, taking the job in Nebraska, believing that he can turn around a program that doesn't quite have the amount of support as UCF. And also the expectations are way lower at Nebraska, unfortunately, because they used to be a juggernaut. So yeah, really, really unfortunate to see him fall off the map like he has, but unfortunate for him, not so much for the rest of us.
I'll start by saying no, it is not Lovie Smith as coach of Illinois anymore. So I agree. I liked him. I wanted him to work out in Tampa, and maybe had he gotten Tom Brady a little sooner, it might have. You never know. But the stuff with Scott Frost is always so difficult to talk about. It's one of the things to this day still tears Knight Nation apart. There's always 2 camps. Really, there's 3 camps. There's pretty neutral people. Thanks what you did for us. Go have success somewhere else. There's the people that totally understand that he didn't leave for a job. He left for the job. He left for his hometown where he used to play, where he won a national championship as a player. And, then you got the people that just totally disown him. And I feel, I don't know. It depends on the day, which camp I'm in, really. I'm always jumping to different tents, but I always lean more towards the, I'm not going to have sympathy for the guy that, you left because you wanted to. And I was reading some stories about what he told before he officially took the job at Nebraska. One of the lines he told the press to kind of simmer everything down. He said, I have two homes. I have, the one in Nebraska where I grew up, and I have Orlando where I am now at the time. And he said, if I leave Orlando to go to Nebraska and I don't succeed, I won't have a home anymore. And that was like, when I first heard that, I'm like, man, that is deep. And I do think that did cool the press for a little while. And it's because he's right. And the fact that he figured that out and still made the plunge, to me, just says a lot. And UCF's at a point now, they have Gus Malzahn. We kick off this week against Boise State. I'm looking forward to it. I can't be there, unfortunately. I'll be at the next home game. But
Bethune-Cookman.
Bethune-Cookman. We'll be there. But no, we're in a great spot. This is the most anticipated season UCF's ever had. Because you got to remember, 2018, 2017, when we won undefeated, won the national championship, that was coming off of a 6-7 year. Nobody had those aspirations coming off of a 6-7 year when you lost to Arkansas State in a Cure Bowl. Whereas this year, expectations are at an all-time high. So UCF's in a good spot. Things have kind of worked out for us. They haven't worked out for Scott. And I don't know if, this is one game. I think they play Furman next and then Buffalo. So there's a very good chance they rattle off 2 in a row, and it kind of chills his seat just a little bit. But he hasn't been bowl eligible since he's got there. I don't think he has not won more than 5 games. I think he's got to, at bare minimum, win 6-7 games and go to a bowl. And probably if he only wins 6, I think he's got to win the bowl too, to stay. And if he doesn't, I don't know if his next job is a head coaching one. He might have to go back to that offensive coordinator position for a while to rebound. You never know.
Yeah, it is amazing. Sometimes coaches just flourish in one system and they can't succeed in another system in the same sport. So that seems to be the case with Scott Frost. And I'm really quite surprised. Like, he was such a one-hit wonder per se. But we do hope, coaches don't bottom out like that. But when you leave such a well-oiled, great program with wonderful support, this is the thing that happens. It's very difficult to be Urban Meyer and just step in year one, turn a team into a bowl eligible. We'll get to him at some point in this podcast,
sure,
but it's very difficult to do that.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things. I think a lot of people that didn't know UCF, a lot of people that were maybe fans of other programs, thought that when Scott Frost left, so would the success. And the grass is not always greener on the other side. It's greener where you water it. And even with Scott Frost gone, people have been watering the grass over here, and things have still been pretty good. Whereas over there, I don't know if it was entitlement to think that he was just gonna fix it immediately. I think it discredits what an accomplishment it was here in Orlando, and to think that you could just get up and do it again, it's probably a little short sight, not necessarily by him, but like by the boosters and the fans and the fan base and maybe the players. I think at the end of the day, Martinez, the quarterback, just isn't Mackenzie Milton like they thought he would be. And, that's a good place to start. You don't have the star quarterback that you think you do. Every good play he makes 2 bad ones. And that's just, you get games like you got this past Saturday.
Yeah, losing to Illinois is a pretty low spot. So
the Illinois team that lost their starting quarterback early in the game. So you lost to an Illinois team with a backup quarterback. If that doesn't make it any worse.
Yeah. What a way to kick off the show, huh? We're just going to go right at people.
It does them no favors. We just rattled off all the scores and all the games from last week. That was the only game that was close. It was the first game of the college football season. It had this spotlight on it that it didn't deserve, because in any other week, who's watching Nebraska and Illinois, unless you're a Husker or an Illini? It really put itself in a spotlight that I'm sure Scott Frost wished it didn't have at the time. There's no other weeks of the college football season this would be a topic of conversation. It's just the way that the season rolled out, and I'm sure Scott would have rather just been on regular week 1, buried with all the other games, and people only watched it if they actually cared about the teams involved.
Or maybe he did want this on the national spotlight. He was thinking, we're going to beat Illinois by 30 and people are going to start to respect us. That's probably that could have been something too.
That's true. I don't know the process of how do you get on that elite slate of week 0 games, because there's only 5 of them apparently, one of which I think is an FCS. I think there was 6 total, because they usually have that FCS showcase game as well. But I don't know how that whole process works, but it remains to be seen. Like I said, I would not be surprised if Huskers rattle off 2 in a row here. Buffalo, I don't know. They were pretty good last year. I don't know how many guys they have coming back. Furman, I was at the year UCF went 0-12. We lost to Furman at home, and I don't wish that on any other human. But you never know. I mean, they didn't look that great. I don't know how Furman is this year, so we'll have to see.
We'll see. With that said, before we move on, this is I think week 0 is a perfect opportunity to showcase the FCS.
Yes.
They had an HBCU challenge this last week. That was a pretty cool idea, but I think they should just go all in FCS. Get your North Dakota States, get your Montanas, get all of your great FCS schools in and showcase that league for a week. I think that's a great opportunity for them.
And I like the whole HBCU, showcase if they want to have 2 different HBCUs every year and do that. And, we had that we talked about it back when it was, going on, but like when they played in the spring and they kind of had a little bit more eyeballs on them than maybe normally. And, led by Jackson State with Coach Deion Sanders and stuff. I'm hoping that puts a few more eyes on them, moving forward. But yeah, I agree. Any chance you can to showcase, because, I working for Stetson, working for an FCS program, it's not lesser football as people might assume. It's like, especially if you're there live, once you're there, it feels exactly the same. And I think those programs deserve more credit for what they get. And I'll be at an FCS game. I'll be at Stetson this weekend. Games on ESPN3. I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, those programs definitely deserve more credit and more recognition. And I think week 0 would be a perfect chance to throw that in there. And then you sprinkle in 1 or 2 D1 games like a Nebraska, Illinois, if you want, but mostly make it about them. And I think that would be a lot more beneficial than UConn losing by 45 to Fresno. Like I don't think anybody cared about that.
Yeah, shout out to Darius Leonard, one of the great linebackers in the NFL from small school South Carolina State.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll see this too, and he'll appreciate you shouting him out.
Of course. What else is he doing on the week before his season opener?
Yeah, probably just hanging out, I would think.
Oh yeah.
So last episode I flew solo. I just kind of mentioned some stuff that was on my mind. One of which, of course, was Texas and Oklahoma leaving the Big 12, which only had 10 teams in the first place, for the SEC. And it's unclear when that'll happen, whether it's going to be in 2024. If the conference dissolves, they don't have to pay an exit fee. It could be as soon as 2022. You never know. I gave my opinions. I think it's a huge mistake. I explained why. Texas has been averaging 7 wins a year on average over the past decade. That number's only going to go down if you're in the SEC, if I had to assume. Oklahoma makes even less sense because were so dominant in the Big 12. They were punching their ticket to the playoff every year. For different reasons, it doesn't make sense for either program for me. What do you think when you heard this news?
Well, when you play NCAA football 14, one of the great college games, one of the great sports video games out there today, believe it or not, today, yes, check it out if you have any time after this podcast, after you re-listen this thing. It's very easy to change conferences and succeed wherever you want to go. In real life, it almost never happens. Please name me, Phil, one time where a team moves a conference, even if it's quote unquote laterally, since Big 12 and SEC, maybe a slight upgrade. I'd say probably a slight upgrade now that I think about it, but not the massive upgrade that it would be to go from FCS to FBS that we see quite a few times. Please name one time that it really works out.
and these are, I would think of, UCF going from Conference USA to the American, but to a lot of people, they consider that a lateral move at the time. I just had another one. Oh, so when Boise went from the MAC to the Mountain West, but again, lateral move, it just happens to be a new conference. And I think, TCU going to the Big 12, they had a couple good years at the time. But yeah, overall, it's usually not like, all right, let's move over here and then just keep it rolling. Like we're winning this title and we're going to, and to me, Texas is the other head scratcher because they have something no other college football team has. They have the Longhorn Network. Your Crimson Tide doesn't even have their own channel. And I can't imagine they get to go to the SEC and Alabama's going to see that thing and be like, no, that's not going to work for us. You don't get that extra revenue coming in from having your own channel. Not that, they don't even air live games on that thing. I don't know what that channel has necessarily, but it's got to bring some revenue in that other teams aren't getting.
Yeah. Whatever it is, it's way more than the average college. So yeah, the Big 12 is in really a solid conference for them to succeed in, but it does tell you kind of the state of the conferences right now, and it's part of the reason why the college football playoff expanded the way it did. It's to me the last ditch effort before they start, tapping into particular schools to try and even the playing field. I mean, I like Alabama. The fact we're winning or coming in second or third, we're getting a medal every year is getting kind of frustrating. Like 131 college football teams, they promote this on the big preseason commercials. They have all these great artists to help promote the college football season. 131 teams for one title. Really, it's like 7 teams for one title. A couple
Right.
of SEC schools, a couple of ACC schools, Notre Dame, I guess, and then maybe one school out of the Pac-12, whoever wins the Pac-12, and that's about it. Unless they finally bring in UCF, they finally show some respect to a conference they don't love. So,
And that's a good, segue to the next part. Assuming this happens in whatever timeline it does, is the Big 12 better served poaching schools like UCF, Memphis, Cincinnati, maybe Houston, maybe BYU, or are they better off just dissolving and letting those schools go to the place, like the geographically makes sense? I could see some of those Texas schools joining the American, like Baylor and TCU, because we already have, SMU and stuff. And then some of the lower level ones, I would imagine Kansas would be a commodity, not because of their football, obviously, but because of their basketball program. I think the American would gobble them up if they could, to promote how, they lost UConn in basketball. Replacing it with Kansas would be somewhat of an upgrade. But then you got other schools that don't bring a lot of value individually. And that's the thing where, you look at the SEC, people love to chant SEC. You got, Bama standing up front and center. You got Georgia over one shoulder, LSU on the other, Florida probably right there. But all these other schools, like how much is Ole Miss worth if not for what Alabama's doing? What about, Arkansas? What about everyone jokes on Vanderbilt that they're there for the, academics of it all, but it takes a lot of self-awareness to know that, with Texas and Oklahoma gone, Kansas State's not worth a lot. Baylor's not worth a lot individually. They might be a little bit right now. They just won March Madness and everything. But, these schools are so used to riding the coattails of these, like you said, 7 programs that truly bring the revenue. And a little self-awareness would go a long way, I think, moving forward for them.
Right. I just believe that there's so many schools in the Big 12. It's really hard for me to see a situation where they could move all of those schools into new conferences, not just for football, but they'd have to try and figure it out for a lot of other sports. It's people assume that just because the football teams are in a particular conference, that the rest of the sports are in the same conference. There's just so much logistics involved, so many teams in different leagues. It's very, very hard to have a mass exodus of a conference like that. Not that I think the Big 12 is great, just so much it would be very difficult to do, which was, in my opinion, part of the reason why they didn't really specify it. But the Pac-12, ACC, and one other conference, I think it was the Big 12. They promised to a Big 10 promised to come together to make group decisions, something like that.
Yeah, and nothing about that is in writing. Nothing about that's official. I think it was just their way of standing on a soapbox and saying, "Don't forget about us." So we'll see what that actually does. Let's do this little exercise real quick. Out of the remaining 8 teams, I'm going to rattle them off for you. Which one, if you are, let's say you're the American, let's say you're, one of these other conferences, which one of these has the most value, would you say? So we got Baylor, Iowa State, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, TCU, Texas Tech, and West Virginia. What would you say overall has the best value in all sports, football probably, being the most? What do you think is the most valuable program?
Believe it or not, the first school, you might have to read off the names again for me, but the first school that came to my mind, all sports, but especially football, Oklahoma State, believe it or not.
Okay. I'll rattle them off one more time. Baylor, Iowa State, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Texas Christian, TCU, Texas Tech, and West Virginia. So you're going with Oklahoma State?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of really close front runners, but yeah, I'd say Oklahoma State.
So Baylor, they got a lot going for them right now, just winning the, March Madness, like I said, in basketball. Kansas, you're only adding Kansas if you want your basketball numbers boosted, which there are definitely conferences that would want that too. There are conferences that care about their basketball enough to do that.
I love Kansas, but by the way, they're not necessarily like other juggernaut. They're not like what they used to be.
Right, exactly. But it's one of those, it's like
popular.
UConn leaving the American to go to the Big East in basketball, and now they're an independent in football, and they could very easily slip down in the FCS in the next couple of years if they keep losing by 40 to Fresno State like they did on Saturday. I'm going with West Virginia. I just think it's one of the more memorable. I think they would fit perfectly in the ACC. Just makes sense to me. They get to play Pitt again, the backyard brawl, one of the bigger rivalries. I think a trophy rival with Florida State, and they do a trophy named after Bobby Bowden because it's the two programs that he coached in his career, would be amazing. To me, that is one rare situation that would benefit the program going into the conference and the conference itself. I'm going West Virginia.
Not a bad choice. Geographically, that also really helps.
Right.
Being so close to a lot of those schools.
Yeah, we used to care so much about, conferences where basically you opened up a map and you kind of circled bubbles of teams that made sense, that you never went, the rumor mill is running rampant about, Big 12, the Big 12, what's left of it, trying to add teams. And whenever UCF comes up, they see, the good programs, they see the fan base, they see the palm trees, the beach, Orlando. The only thing that's kind of pulling them back is how far away it is. It's about 1,000 miles east of the next closest Eastern team. So that, is obviously an issue. You look at the teams we play now, you go to Memphis, you go to Carolina, you go to Texas, it's reasonable enough. Geographics used to factor into this way more than it used to. And I don't like it. It naturally builds rivalries when your schools are kind of close. Florida and Georgia didn't become rivals on accident, right? It's because of their proximity to each other. And other than in-state rivals, some of the best college football rivalries were rooted on the fact that they were just close to each other. It's hard to have a rival between USC and Pitt. That's not going to happen. They're on the opposite sides of the country. You're not going to get Alabama and Oregon to be rivals, even if they're both big programs. It just doesn't work that way.
It's also tough to have a rivalry when UCF beats the USF every year, but that's a different discussion.
Yeah, we're talking real rivalries here, not past rivalries.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. But so it'll be fascinating. It seems like college football is really going to be moving a lot in the next couple of years, and that's if, in my opinion, this new expanded college football playoff format is going to prove, and I'd bet money that it is going to prove, that there aren't any scheduling ways that you can create a more fair, balanced college football season. I just don't think you could do it. There's just too many guys at the top schools for there to not be there's got to be some sort of a shakeup, whether it be recruiting limits or something. There has to be like a cap. I don't know how you propose that, but something to where, you look at a college football game and there's an actual chance for a national champion to not be one of these top schools.
I mean, it is interesting because one thing it would also show, in my opinion, is like, it would show these middle of the road Power 5 teams are no better or worse than the top group of 5 teams. And I use air quotes for both because neither of these classifications are real NCAA recognized things. So it's amazing how, we do it. We're doing it here. You turn on the TV and they do it. That we throw around these classifications like they're real things. Like, imagine the NFL if they just announced the NFC East is the worst division of football currently, but you gave it its own classification, and for some reason,
Division 2 NFC East is the Division 2 division,
and somehow winning the NFC East didn't automatically qualify you for the playoff. That's just not how pro football would work. So the one thing that would benefit from these this 12-team play, and honestly, my opinion, and this is weird coming from a UCF fan, I know 12's too much. I think it's no longer an accomplishment. I don't want to see more than 8. I kind of want to see 6.
Think about the amount of extra games you have to play. 12 means you're playing 4 playoff games, right?
I would want 6
3.
and 3. I would want 6 and the 1 and 2 seeds get the first round bye. That way you're really only adding a game or 2. to those lower seeds. And if you're a lower seed, then that's why you're trying to work your way up. But 8 would definitely be like my breaking point. I think to go from 4 to 12 is quite the jump that I don't think people might think they want it, but I don't think they're really ready for.
Yeah, it's a 16-game schedule. If you make the national championship game and your conference plays a conference title, that's insane to me. And that's if you get a bye. If you don't get a bye, then you're playing 17 games. Like, that's crazy to do that for free.
Well, that's the thing too. You might you might get to the point, Alabama's like, well, maybe we don't play that random game against, Virginia State College, like everyone gets, maybe they stop playing the cupcake games or something just to save themselves a game or something. You never know. But yeah.
And that's going to only increase the distance because, those schools aren't getting the $2 million payouts.
Right. That's true. So it only hurts the smaller schools by doing that. But luckily, I don't want, we talk a lot about, not just us, but, college football fans in general, talk about this 12-team playoff. Nothing is finalized yet. It was proposed. Everyone, they kind of floated it out there to test the waters. I think it's over mostly positive. I think there's more positive reactions to it than negative. So I could see it coming at some point. But at the moment, it's not here yet. It won't be this college football season. I think 22, 23 would be the earliest it could happen. But who knows? They might float another idea out between then and now, and they base it off of that,
Yeah. What are you referring to? The playoff?
The playoff doesn't start this year. It's a matter, it's not official. It's not anything. So
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Okay.
We never know. It could be something else. It could end up being something else before they twig. I just think going 4 to 12.
That's really kind of you, Phil. Yeah. Really, really kind of you. I doubt it, but I hope you're right. I hope you're right. For sure.
It's just 4 to 12 just seems like such a big jump, and I don't think they're really ready for it. If it actually, they won't have all the minute details on, is the first round going to be just home site games and everything? Like, they haven't figured any of that out yet. And that's why it's not official, I don't think.
There was a great discussion about whether or not we should keep 4 or not. And I felt like there was plenty of people on the side of keeping it at 4, let alone expanding to 8. So there must have been something that happened. And I think it's just the conversation about, man, like, it's the same schools every year getting in. There's an element of that people want to see. People don't want to see Alabama State beating Alabama to get into the college football playoff. Like, we don't want that much parity.
Right.
But, there's got to be a balance. And right now, it seems there's not enough. Even college basketball, there's more balance,
Definitely,
if Baylor's winning it.
So. Right, exactly. Baylor's winning it, and some of those other teams that made those deep runs, I think that's the kind of, those teams aren't winning the championship, but they're getting far enough into it that you feel like they had a chance to win it. Underdogs had a chance to win it.
Exactly.
All right, we're going to take a small break here, and when we come back, we're going to talk some NFL as that kicks off here soon in about a week or so. So we'll be right back. Okay, we're back. We're going to shift into some NFL talk here. And with the conclusion of this past weekend, the worst kept secret in the history of the sports world is out. We never needed 4 preseason games. 3 is plenty. I think you could still argue 3 is plenty. Out of these 3 weeks of preseason, Nick, how much preseason football would you say you've watched?
I watched the second half of Chargers Seahawks the other day. I was really surprised because I vowed to not watch a second of this. And, I was bored, so I did. But yes, they already shipped out the contender for the starting quarterback out of Jacksonville. They already did. It took a minute. Yeah, but they already did. It tells you exactly what the Eagles think of Jalen Hurts anyways. So
yeah, and welcome to Philadelphia, Gardner Minshew. Very happy to have you. I'm still intrigued on what jersey number he's going to want because you can't wear 15 in Philly because of Steve Van Buren back in the day. But
good point.
But you're right. I didn't know when we get to this, but I'm the bad Eagles fan for being like, listen, Jalen Hurts has like 4 touchdowns to 6 turnovers. He's 1-3 as a starter. I'm not denying he looked good at times, but let's just wait a minute before we like put the crown on his head and anoint him the second coming. And apparently you're not allowed to do that. You got to be all in on him. Joe Flacco looked decent in preseason. Now, I'm not saying he's the quarterback of the future, but it just shows you how little preseason can be. And we all know Gardner Minshew on a good team could be a serviceable starter. I don't think if you put him on the Chargers for whatever reason, you guys win 8-9 games still probably.
I mean, his numbers are really good. Like
he's
3
like
to 1
30
touchdown to interception ratio.
Yeah, he's like 30, 34, 35 touchdowns and 11 picks in what, 2-3 years. Like insane on a terrible Jaguar team.
It goes to show they were the number 1 overall pick for a reason. When Gardner Minshew didn't play the whole year, all of a sudden,
Yeah. So welcome to Philly, Gardner. We are happy to have you. I did not watch.
Now is he the starter there?
I
not
don't
week
think right
1, but
away.
at some point.
I tweeted this out immediately when the news broke. He will start anywhere from 1 to 3 games this year. I don't know when they'll come. I don't. Jalen's going to start week 1 because he's got to, right, because of all the shit they've done. But he will start 1 to 3. Flacco maybe 1 to 2, depending on how it all breaks out. But no, he'll start a game by the end of the year. I almost guarantee it. I wouldn't, not enough to put money on it, but like, a handshake bet with somebody, absolutely. Like he's starting 1 to 3 games, I think. But as far as preseason goes, I didn't watch a single full game. I probably watched 3 games of football pieced together. Like I watched a quarter of this and a quarter of that. Watched the Eagles here. Oh, look, the Bears Dolphins is on. Let me watch that. Oh, the Bucks Tennessee's on. I'll watch a couple minutes of that. So
you're better than me.
It was just a matter of I didn't watch anything of the Eagles live, whether I had a baseball game or I was still working or something was going on. But I didn't watch really anything live. But the worst thing for the people that for the league that wanted more preseason games, that's more stadium tickets to sell and stuff. Last year when we had no preseason and everybody was fine with it, that was a big red flag for the people, for pro, preseason people, because the fact that we had none last year, I would like to see a point at this rate where maybe we get it down to 2, and I think 2 would be enough. I mean, normally in a normal year, years past, this would be week 4 coming up, and we just have no NFL, and people are fine with it. People would rather have no games this week than a 4th preseason game. That is what the fans are telling the league.
Especially because Sean McVay kind of laid the groundwork to, when his team didn't play at all in the preseason, and then they come out 8-0. I believe that was their Super Bowl year. Maybe not. But players are no longer, like starters are no longer flying to the road games for the preseason. And when Justin Herbert set the rookie record in touchdown passes, a lot of that is because he's really good and he totally proved me wrong. But another part of that is with the no preseason, I think a lot of players this past year believe that, rest is, for such a grueling season, more beneficial in the long run than having those extra hits on you, because it's different than basketball. You can play 6 NBA preseason games and, last the year, but football is grueling, man. So I think 2 is a good number, and it's a good number for the fans, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard translation for the NBA because like you have the summer league, but that's a whole nother roster of guys. Then you have the true preseason, and but like basketball is such a different, like these dudes just like mess around in the gym all day, every day anyway. So it's a little different than, it's a little different, but I think 2 would be plenty in the future. You have 1 where all the rookies play, all the bubble guys play. And in the second game, your starters play like a half, and then you get right back to the bubble. I think
at the very least, let's have the Hall of Fame game not be the 4th for 2 teams. Let's have everyone do 3. I'd say if we're not going to go to 2. All right. The fact that the Cowboys and Steelers play 4 is obnoxious to me.
That's always been the case. When we had 4, the Hall of Fame game teams would have 5 that year. Like that's always been the case. It was
right. Well, I appreciate the history lesson.
Yeah. It's always been, I agree that it's bullshit, but what I'm telling you is it's always been bullshit. That's not new, is what I'm saying, I guess. But no, I agree. I think 2 would be plenty. And the one thing you do get out of preseason a little bit. Oh, I got halfway to saying this out. What I hear from these coach interviews, they get more out of these joint practices than they do the actual preseason games. So if you're going to drop it down to 2, just up the joint practices, and I think everyone will be better for that experience.
But the NFL limit joint practices. If they do, they gotta chill out on that. Like you can only do 1 week or something like that.
Yeah, I think you would tweak that. If you're only playing 2 games, maybe you get 3 different joint practice sessions with 3 different, with different teams or whatever. You don't want the same 2 teams like basically in training camp together because you're just asking for fights and everything. But if you rotate the teams out and it keeps things a little fresh, it changes up the game plan you have to attack these other teams with. I think that'd be helpful. The one positive that comes from preseason, so we think most years, is we get to check out these rookie quarterbacks. And we've seen some good and bad from these guys, Mac Jones and Trey Lance. And Trevor Lawrence looked a lot better in the later part of the preseason than he did to start preseason, running for his life, getting sacked on his first professional snap in the preseason. Out of all these guys, who are you most interested to see in week 1? And even if they don't start week 1, who do you think is going to be when we look back on this class in 5 years, who's going to be the best guy?
Well, for just to finish the tangent, because I'm just so heated right now. Yes, I think because coaches are clearly saying that the preseason is with a grain of salt. I think the coaches, the players, the owners, they're all saying the same thing. It's like these preseason games are not all that significant to our general decision making. Yeah. It's like the fact when you look at the numbers between Mac Jones and Cam Newton, that Mac Jones has so much more astronomically better numbers than Cam Newton right now. Even though Newton had one great game, he also has missed more time. Jones has taken double the drives. That's just one of a bunch of examples I could give of like the fact that it's still a quarterback competition tells you that the preseason games aren't the only thing they're evaluating. It's one of the last things they're evaluating, to be completely honest, because they're saying, well, you're going up against third stringers. They're not bringing in their ace game plan. They're not showing you all the tricks that they have. So anyways,
but you can get a headache thinking about it, because it's like, yeah, we're playing their third stringers, but my QB's throwing to our third stringers. So it's like, where's the real advantage here? But yeah, go ahead. But I agree with that statement. Yeah.
Anyways, if I were to rank the 3, 1 is obviously not controversial. 2, believe it or not, after Trevor Lawrence, I actually think in 5 years, if you're saying 5, I think Mac Jones will be 2, simply because of where he is. I think the support for Mac Jones in New England is so great. The defense is very good still. They led the NFL in COVID opt-outs with 8. So that team that went 9-7? 7-9.
7-9. Yeah.
7-9. You just, if they brought it all back, and I believe they added the most free agent money of all time
on defense specifically too, which is crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
To go along with those 2 great tight ends, I'm bummed that Hunter Henry is no longer a Charger.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the support, it's going to be top notch. And I know that division is great with Buffalo and Miami. The Jets are horrible always. When it comes to the support, it's top notch. And then third, I clench my teeth. I really, really don't want to say this, but I believe that Justin Fields is third. And I like Justin Fields, but what he said after the first preseason game, that the NFL is I was surprised it's such a slow game. Like I could totally adjust to this speed. Mm-hmm. And then he got rocked the next preseason game and his helmet flew off and he was like, whoa, where am I? I was pretty thrilled about that. Like, welcome to the NFL. Don't talk like that anymore.
So anyways,
that would be my 3: Lawrence, Jones, Wilson, or what's his face? Fields.
And then so Trey Lance under him, huh?
Believe it or not. Yeah. Believe it or not.
Well, Trey Lance is he's the farthest from a finished product. And I think people knew that when he was taken, which is why I do think Garoppolo starts week 1. Back to the whole preseason bit, there's very few, like what happened in New Orleans is a very rare, it used to happen all the time, but in New Orleans, they had a quarterback battle, but there was only one quarterback involved because I still don't consider, just forgot his name.
Gadget guy?
Yeah, I don't consider him
Jason Hill.
Thank you. It was a QB competition. Jameis Winston went out there and balled out for 2 straight games, and they said, you know what? Here's our starter. That doesn't happen much anymore. The Patriots have not named a starter yet. The Niners have not named a starter yet. I do think Garoppolo will start. I would not be surprised if Cam Newton starts week 1 just off principle. He might not even finish the game. I think like he might start the game just to say that he didn't start Mac Jones, because Belichick would do stuff like that,
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Lawrence, obviously, with the trading away of Minshew, he will start week 1 for the Jaguars. And then Fields, I don't know if it's confirmed yet for him as well, because there's still the Andy Dalton problem that needs to be dealt with.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh man, like the fact that they haven't named, they're literally just screwing over half of the season right now. You know, the fan base is getting really sick and tired of they want to see Justin Fields out there. And to me, I feel like the difference is not that significant. Justin Fields should be the week one starter, in my opinion. What are you doing? Who are you winning over by starting Andy Dalton?
I'm convinced coaches of any sport, because I've dealt with this at like Daytona State and other things. One thing coaches will never tell you, but they absolutely love, is waiting till the last possible second to put out either a lineup or a depth chart.
Yep.
I've had
Until
games
injuries, whatever.
where we didn't know the lineup for like a basketball game until the 5 players walked on the floor for a tip off.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
UCF plays Boise State on Thursday. We're recording this on Monday, and neither team has a depth chart out. Some people, something about coaches just love, like, it's none of your goddamn business who I'm going to play. I think it's a little bit. It's a little bit of that too, but it always makes me laugh about that, and because it's just for us fans to like overanalyze. It doesn't really mean much of anything. Like you said, you could literally put Cam Newton out there for one play. He can hand the ball off and trot off the sideline. Mac Jones can come in, and technically Cam Newton started the game. Like that. You can do that. So I gave you the 5-year question. What about this year? Who has the best rookie year of all the QBs, you think?
I think Lawrence is going to play the best, but obviously he's not going to have the best rookie season. He could throw 15 touchdowns this year, and that would be more impressive than Herbert's rookie season, to be completely honest. But with that said, I'd say probably Mac Jones.
Yeah, just because the stable.
Yeah. If Bill Belichick messes around too much with a guy that's, in and out of the lineup due to COVID situation, you don't know if he's going to be, A+ or D- to Cam Newton. Like if he keeps messing around with that, first I'd be surprised. Like Bill Belichick's not the type of guy to do that, but he's a changed man, so maybe. But yeah, I'd say Mac Jones.
And then out of the 4 guys, I would think Trey Lance plays the least of the 4. I don't know if you agree.
I have the vibe that Trey Lance is going to play in a lot of like third and short situations, like goal line, kind of like Taysom Hill.
Yeah, and that's not a bad way to bring him along, but I don't think he's going to play extensive snaps at quarterback really at all this year, unless Garoppolo gets hurt again. That would be the only way. I would think that.
I think that's almost a given, but we'll see. We'll see. I think people are a little too high on the 49ers, though. Whoever they have a quarterback, I just believe, like, it felt kind of like the Chargers for a while, like when in the early 2010s when we constantly were in the playoffs but not knocking down the door. Same thing with San Francisco. Like people are so infatuated by that Super Bowl season. They haven't seen a bottom out really yet for them since. And the 49ers have some good pieces, but I think we're getting too infatuated about those pieces. Fred Warner, George Kittle, and that's about it. I think this team, whoever they have at quarterback, is really, really average.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen good Garoppolo, we've seen average Garoppolo, and we've seen, injured Garoppolo, which usually one of the 3, and you never know which one you're going to get until that happens. But you mentioned, teams that people are high on at the moment, and, San Francisco is one of those middle of the pack ones. To me, going into the year, these are the teams with the storylines. Obviously, the Chiefs, no reason to think they can't be right back where they were in February, maybe even on the other side of it. There's a storyline. Can Tampa go back-to-back? I mean, the Lightning did it in hockey for Tampa, so, it shows that it can be done. Aaron Rodgers is back in Green Bay after all the offseason drama. What's that going to be? Is he just going to play lights out to show everyone that he was worth all the drama? The Bills potentially taking the next step. A lot of people, including myself, are high on the Bills. I don't know that I'm quite ready to put them. I could see them in like the AFC Championship potentially, depending on how like seeding works out. Cleveland is another team. They were right there against Kansas City. Could have easily, won that game if not for was it Chad Henne's ballsy throw on 4th down to run out the clock.
Right.
It was that close. When Chad Henne is a difference maker, the game was a little crazy.
Right.
And I don't know if I'm forgetting anybody. So it's Cleveland, Tampa, Kansas City, Green Bay, Buffalo. Those are to me the real players. You mentioned only about 7 teams can win the national championship. There's around the same amount for the Super Bowl every year. That Super Bowl bubble. That's my Super Bowl bubble. Am I leaving out anybody?
I appreciate you leaving out New Orleans because people love to kind of keep throwing them in there,
Mhm.
but I don't think they make the playoffs this year because of Michael Thomas and his injury situation, the drama with the quarterback, the drama with the coach. So many great players leaving that team, especially on defense. Janoris Jenkins is one of the headline guys leaving there. So yeah, Jared Cook on offense. Marquez Callaway looks really good, but yeah, I
Very
think
good.
the
Yeah.
Saints are out. Obviously, no one in the NFC East. Um, I think seven. Seven's about the good number.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I think I had 6 total. See,
Six.
I understand the New Orleans bit in years past. Like you have Drew Brees, you always have a chance. And that was always what the statement was. But now, I mean, maybe they make the playoffs. I always got to
Oh,
remind myself.
Ravens. Ravens.
Okay.
Sorry,
Put
throw
the
them in
Ravens
there.
in there.
Okay, that's seven.
But yeah, like I always got to remind myself that the playoffs are expanded this year too. So like maybe they can sneak in or whatever. I don't know how they're going to do win-loss wise, but Jameis Winston starting the whole year, he got LASIK surgery, right? He's got Sean Payton. I'm a little interested to see how well he could potentially play, though. Whether it results in wins for the Saints is a whole nother story. But I'm a little excited to see how he might do when he's not on a team that the whole offensive game plan was just throw the ball deep every single play.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of was buried under the line, but I'm telling you, like half of the starters for the Saints are different this year. Like
Yeah.
because they kept racking up the credit card over the last couple of years, they're saying, yeah, we'll extend Michael Thomas, we'll sign all these guys expensive deals and just push the bonus money later. They're having to pay that credit card. It's due now, and that means they had to get rid of a lot of guys. And I wouldn't be shocked. They're probably the team I think that's going to take a pretty big fall. And I like Jameis Winston, but yeah, I believe people
I
people
took
don't want to respect Drew Brees, man. That guy is great for a reason. So they're going to really miss him this year.
and we don't know if Michael Thomas is going to suit up for the Saints. Is he going to, force himself out of there? I had a fantasy football draft yesterday, and I took Michael Thomas with my last pick of the draft, just in case he either
Just
A,
in case.
comes back, or B, gets traded and plays for another team.
Last pick, that's a great selection.
That's what he was still there, man. And I'm like, you know what? I get, because again, you don't know that this dude's going to play, but if he does, he's a top 10, 15 receiver, I would think.
Exactly.
So I don't mind giving that strategy out now because I've already drafted him in my league. But you guys got to remember as you're doing your drafts, look late in the draft. No one takes Michael Thomas. If somebody takes him early, they must not be paying attention to the the storylines. And there's always that guy in your league, right? The guy that plays fantasy football but doesn't really watch games, and he'll just see and there's always gonna be that guy. But if that guy doesn't take him, definitely that. But you mentioned
or
in
girl,
the Super Bowl bubble,
hashtag feminism. Go ahead.
What's that?
Or girl, hashtag feminism.
True. If the participant in your league, there's always one participant in your league that is right. Like that. But you threw Baltimore in the Super Bowl bubble, and I cut you off. So why? Because there's always that chance that Lamar Jackson gets figured out finally. Like there's a little gimmick to his game, but
yeah.
But so you sell me on Baltimore. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm gonna have to sell you on Baltimore.
Well,
I just figured that
you threw him in the bubble.
I just figured that you were like, oh, I forgot Baltimore. Oh, okay. So all right. I guess I am gonna have to sell.
I mean, I could see them with Cleveland. It might be hard to win the division, but you never know. They still could.
If I had to take one out of your bubble, I'd take Cleveland out. I'd put the Ravens in. I think Cleveland is a team that's really nice and really flashy, but they don't quite have enough of the pieces. With the Ravens, I mean, I believe that Lamar Jackson will continue to develop, and he's just still a really solid quarterback. Obviously, the most dangerous runner, and I just believe that he's going to develop. Like it's like Ben Simmons, but the guy really cares. Really cares. And I think there's just no way with how hard he works. I loved him at Louisville, man. I loved him. Me and Steve Allen, when we would talk over there, loved him at Louisville. And I think he's just so passionate about the game that he's going to, I believe, continue to develop. And John Harbaugh is, he's never in the conversation for the greatest coach in the NFL, but he's right there with Andy Reid, with Bill Belichick. He's a great coach. Maybe it's that last name that's hurting him a little bit, but there'll be a conversation at some point during the college football season. I believe in the Ravens. I think they'll be right there.
Baltimore, I'm not going to say you sold me, but it did put me down this this train of thought here. They might turn into the new like New Orleans. It's like the math doesn't add up, but you look at them and you're like, yeah, they got a shot. You know, you mentioned that the coaching staff is a lot of the reason for that.
Yep.
When Lamar is doing his thing, like it's a thing of beauty. It's just every once in a while, and it's always, you know, deep in a playoff run or something, he just gets figured out to some extent. But maybe this is also the year that he truly develops as a passer too. Like, and I don't mean throwing 60-yard bombs deep downfield to someone who got wide open. I mean those true tough throws that a Super Bowl winning quarterback needs to make. That's the stuff we need to see from him to put him in that bubble. But overall, that's about 6-7 teams. That's about where we are. Who do you think? Well, as we wrap up here towards the end, who's a team? I think you might have answered it with Cleveland. Who's your biggest decline team that was, you know, maybe in the playoffs last year that maybe won't be this year?
New Orleans, NFC, and then I don't see Cleveland bottoming out in the AFC. And by the way, as we wrap up, Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers, not a Super Bowl bubble team, but I like how he's coming to the preseason motivated. Like this guy wants to prove something. He's
for the first time in a long time too.
For sure. So I think people dismiss Pittsburgh because of how they lost to Cleveland in the wild card round, but I still believe that they're legit. To me, the team that I think people are going to disappoint, like they've anointed as this great football team, but they're not, in my opinion, is Miami. Like they're going to be solid, but to me, it's a 2-horse race for that division. And Miami won a lot of close games last year. And the Dolphins still, they have so much drama at the quarterback position. Now, this all changes if they trade for Deshaun Watson. That changes everything. And if he's actually available to play, which is amazing to me. What is the status with Deshaun 2 weeks before the year? Is he allowed to play?
There's some Eagles rumors floating around too. And I'm like, how do you even engage in those conversations right now? You might as well sign, you know, OJ Simpson at this point. They're both as likely to happen. If he came out of a courtroom last week and he's dropped of all charges, then you have a conversation. But until then, why even, you know?
Right. But you would think like Deshaun Watson's still allowed to practice. He's not like banned from the NFL, if I'm not mistaken. So
no, I'm
just amazed.
Just without really doing much. He just kind of hangs out on the sideline and like tosses the ball around a little bit. He's not he's not in like active drills or anything. Like I saw this clip on Twitter once where he's just like jogging down the sideline and they got a camera on him. And he's like, why are you guys filming me? Every day it's the same shit. And he just like jogs right by. And like, it's true. Like,
I don't know why we're filming you. Do you really want the answer to that question, Deshaun?
But yeah,
anyways,
could be a great, you know, addition to somebody's team if he ever gets to play football again. We don't know that for sure.
Anyways, if you made the jump from sorry, go ahead.
I like how you made the jump from Roethlisberger to Deshaun Watson because of something they have in common that you never want in common with somebody. But
unintentional, and maybe we could talk about that at a later date. But yeah, I'm sure Deshaun's motivated season will be coming up like Ben's. I believe this year will be his motivated year. And then NFC East, man, you pick whatever team you want. That division is such a mess. If you thought last year was bad, I think this year might even be worse.
Yeah.
Dallas should be the favorite.
Should be. It could be another year. It could be exactly like last year where like Washington football team is just like all they have to do is not suck and they win because like in the past couple of years when the Eagles haven't been good and the Cowboys haven't been good, I've said it multiple times. I'd rather have our issue where like we don't have a deep receiver core. We don't know who the quarterback is. We do have a good running back now, but that wasn't always the case. And then you look at Dallas and they check all those boxes and they're still not winning. That's a much bigger issue to have. To have CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper and Zeke and Dak and a pretty good defense too. And, you know, they just, to me, they got to steal the draft and Parsons at linebacker from Penn State too. That's going to help them out. So to have all that talent and not win is much different than like the Eagles not winning, in my opinion. So I'll throw Seattle. I think the Rams might steal that division out from under them this year if Matt Stafford plays the way he could with a good
division
team.
Is so interesting.
Yeah, very much
the Rams
so.
Now.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it'll be a fun year. I'm not gonna lie. Prediction for who makes it to the Super Bowl. As much as it crushes me, I do believe that there's a lot of opportunity for change. But my prediction right now, with an opportunity to amend it, is still the same Super Bowl we had last year, Tampa and Kansas City. That'd be my bet. But I
Yeah.
believe that there's like a 50% chance that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, to me, a team like Buffalo is like my party crasher for that. The Green Bay is probably also my party crasher. But yeah, like there's no reason to not think it's those two teams until we play some games. But until then, college football officially starts on Thursday. Biggest game to me, obviously, UCF Boise State. There's a few other games that I won't be watching because my eyes will be glued to that one. And then we have another week till the NFL kicks off. So let there be football, everybody. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.